this morning? Excellent, great. No response from some people. Not awake yet. I'm not awake. Well, I was just thinking about our theme this month, and it reminded me of going to Carlsbad Caverns. I went to Carlsbad Caverns in October, and I get this special package for a special tour. We had to hike up a mountain for an hour, and then you get to, and you get the little hat with the, the headlamp on it, and then you take your flashlights and your headlamps, and you walk into this dark cave. So not a lot of the public goes there. Because it's just hard to get to. I mean, you have to drive 40 minutes away from the main cavern. And anyway, we went into this cave and we walked about a mile in, and we had to climb up a rope because it was too slippery and stuff. And it was we're navigating in, and we get to the very back of the cave, and she has us, the guide has us all sit down, and we're just talking about the caves. And she said, okay, now what we're going to do is we're all going to turn our lights off. And we turned off our lights, and she said, put your hand in front of your face. You cannot see your hand right in front of your face. That's how dark it was. You cannot see anything, nothing at all. And then she said, now imagine, 100 years ago, if you had a lantern, and the only way to light it was with a match or something, and then your lantern goes out. You can't see anything. You can't see the matches. There's nothing. And she said, imagine trying to get back. Could you make it back? And I thought, no. Because we had gone up and around and over and through, and there was pools of water and holes in the ground and huge stalactites and stalagmites, and, and they were just no way. I mean, it was just, no, there's no way. I would have perished, right? But one person turning their light on, we could all find our light back. One person. And so our monthly theme is becoming as lights. We light the way for others. That's our weekly theme, actually. Becoming as lights, we light the way for others. And our monthly theme is about the global spirit, the global vision, and the living spirit. And I recognize that oftentimes people really want to be the light, but they haven't actually embraced the light yet. Trying to teach a lesson you haven't learned, or giving away something that you don't possess. And a lot of people try and do that. They say, or you'll come to services like this every Sunday and not apply what we talk about in your life. But then you talk as if you know what it's about. I mean, people do that a lot. It's not this spiritual center in particular. That happens everywhere, right? Right? Yeah. So what can we do to start being the light, to start embracing it? I mean, one reason why I became a minister is because I feel like in order for me to be integrity, I actually have to live these teachings. It stretches me. And it's not necessarily easy to do all the things that, as I'm learning about principle and about how life works, it's uncomfortable sometimes to step into my greatness. It's uncomfortable sometimes to step into a place that is, let's say forgiveness. Ooh, what? You mean I gotta let that thing go? But that person, they did that thing, it was so wrong. They were so mean to me. They hurt me. Why? Why would I forgive somebody? It's not fair. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks like that. No, okay. No. But really to let it go and to really let it go. To not talk about it again as a victim. Can you imagine that? Well, that's not necessarily the easy thing to do. Well, what about tithing? Circulation. We talk about tithing and circulation here. And one reason why I love talking about tithing, now a lot of people really hate that word. They're like, tithing, I went to my whatever church, center, synagogue, whatever, and I was told I had to do this thing called give 10% of my money away. And I resented it because the church just wanted my money. They wanted me to just give them all my money. Well, really, we teach here that that's not what the principle is about. For some reason, and I'm not sure why, but there's some kind of weird law in the universe, and I don't even know if it's because so many different religions believe it, and that's just why it's true, but there's something about 10%, giving away 10% of your income. And people like Oprah and other famous people, Warren Buffett's giving away 50% of his income. Like people are starting to realize that when you give away at least 10% of what you receive, you actually increase what you get. It's amazing. When you give away, and the beautiful thing, Mary Morrissey says, it's like the 10% that you're giving away is actually seeding your future. You're actually planting seeds in your future because it comes back to you multiplied abundantly. And that's a much better way to look at things. But I can tell you, whenever I first started giving my money away at a much larger capacity than I had before, it was uncomfortable. And even whenever I became a minister, I asked other ministers, and this really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to you, but it mattered to me. Net or gross? Should I give 10% of my net away or 10% of my gross away? And I was doing net, and I moved to gross. And now I've increased way more than 10%. But it's amazing to me that, and that was uncomfortable. So I noticed that as I stretch my giving, the areas of my giving, I'm also noticing that I'm receiving more. And it's actually uncomfortable for me to receive. I'm noticing this too. So now I'm like, oh, it's so comfortable for me to give my money away, and I'm happy to give it away. I can't wait to give my money away. I'm so excited about it. I also am starting to receive a lot more, and it's really uncomfortable. And I didn't even consider that. I thought, oh, I love welcoming all these gifts in my life. I'm so happy to be receiving them. But when they start getting bigger and bigger, it totally grows me as well. It's very hard for me to receive. But that's part of the process. I'm growing in all the areas, right? And that's what spiritual growth is. It's about stepping into those places that make us uncomfortable. But, who wants to be comfortable anyway? Hey, boring. But oftentimes we do, I don't know about you, but it's like I go into I grow into this area of uncomfortability, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done for a while. We'll just stay here and be comfortable. I'm just going to coast, right? I'm going to coast for a while, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm ready to take that next step. And that's all right too. You don't have to always be pushing your boundaries all the time. It's okay to be comfortable sometimes. I just want to welcome you into that idea as well. Well, none of that was on my talk, so I better start talking about my... I spent so much time on it. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, if we feel there is a work to do, we may be certain we are the very ones to do it. If there is something in your world that is bothering you, it is certainly your job to take action in it. In order for us to see a world that works for everyone, we must be the example of possibility in our own personal life, our community life, and our global expression. We were ordained with gifts in order to lead a thriving life. And each and every one of us has the opportunity to give our gifts away. But you really can't be anything until you give it away. It's like I can't be an artist until I start creating artwork, right? I'm giving away my artwork. I'm starting to give of the thing that I am, right? Musicians, you're giving your music to others. But if you just keep your music right inside of you, you're not a musician. It's all inside. So what's the thing inside of you that you haven't been giving away? What's the thing you've been waiting to step into? What are the things that light you up in order for you to serve at a greater capacity in this planet? I want to encourage you to give in alignment with your values and beliefs. Just like I'm speaking about the things that I value and I believe in, I would not be in integrity if I didn't do the things that I spoke to you. And sometimes it's not easy. Well, every week sometimes to studies. But if you believe in peace, you have to be a peacemaker where there's war. If you believe in love, you get to find ways to love the unlovable. If you believe in a world that works for everyone, then you get to start speaking out with social justice for those people who are not as privileged as you are. If you believe that God is everywhere present and that everyone and everything is part of God, then start treating each person like a god or a goddess. Start treating the earth like holy land. Start treating your body like a holy temple. You know, there was a story from the Upanishads, and it's about these two priests. I think they were priests. They were sages, sorry. There's two sages. They lived in a hermitage in a forest, and they were worshiping Vayu, which is the wind god. And one afternoon, a beggar came to this place, to the hermitage, and he put out his begging bowl, and he said, please, please, dear sages, please give me some food. Please give me some food of your offering. And the sages said, no, we're not going to give you the food from our holy temple to Vayu. And the beggar said, well, isn't Vayu the also prana, the breath of life? And the sage says, well, yes, prana. Prana is another name for Vayu. And the beggar said, well, isn't prana everywhere? And the sage says, well, of course, prana is everywhere. And the beggar said, well, if prana is everywhere, then I must be breathing prana. And prana is in me. And isn't your gift to prana, to Vayu, supposed to be accepted by prana and Vayu? And I am a person who has prana in me, and I am asking you of this food. Isn't that what the food is meant for? And the sages said, yes. And they were ashamed. They said, beggar, you know more than we do. Because it's not just reading of their scriptures that can assure them of their assimilation and true understanding. It's actually embodying the words, being that representation of it. So I would encourage you to give to your spiritual home. Give to the places that need it the greatest. Oftentimes, people walk into spiritual communities and, they're sitting on the sidelines. It's very fun to sit on the sidelines. But what if you started playing in the game of life? What if you started stepping in and serving and being an active participant? I think a lot of people, they love to watch basketball games. Well, it's fun. Yay, I love watching basketball games. But who's having the most fun? It's the players. Because they're living embodiments of the game. They get to be in the game. So each and every person, I want to encourage you to step into the game, to step into serving in a way that gives you the opportunity to give your gifts. Have you heard of Edwene Gaines? Anybody who's heard of Edwene Gaines? One person. Okay, well, Edwene Gaines is a minister, and she is the minister of prosperity. She's got amazing books out there about prosperity. Don't mess with her. She is like, unless you really want to get down to getting really prosperous. Yeah. But the cool thing that Edwene Gaines is a unity minister, and I don't know if you guys know about unity. Unity is a very similar teaching to Centers for Spiritual Living. We would call it a sister or brother teaching. Teach the same things, just from a slightly different perspective, mostly a Christian perspective, while we teach from all the different religions. And so in Unity, in order to become a minister, you got to go to Unity Village. In Unity Village, you actually have to go live for a couple of years in Unity Village in order to become a minister. And when she was becoming a minister, it was in the 1970s, and she decided that she already knew everything she needed to know. And so nobody else knew that she knew what she needed to know, but she knew that she knew everything. She knew everything she needed to know, and that she was going to start teaching. So she decided she was going to arrive at Unity Village, and she was going to start teaching at one of the surrounding churches there. She was going to start telling everybody and let them, learn from her knowledge. And the funny thing is, she gets to Unity Village. Now, every single minister in this entire organization is taught at Unity Village. And so she goes to the surrounding churches. She says, "Hey, I'm here to teach. I'm a ministerial student." And all the churches laughed at her because there's like hundreds of ministerial students, and they all want to teach, and they all come thinking that all the churches are going to want them to teach, but they have like hundreds of them. They're not lacking in students, in ministerial students. So one day, she starts praying about it. She said, this is what I want to do, and I really want to get my feet into it. I want to start doing this thing. And so she starts praying, and she realizes that she needs to go serve. She finds the church that's nearest to her, and she calls up the minister, and she says, "Hey, what do you need done?" And the minister said, "Well, we need the bulletins folded and the coffee made." And so she came in, and every week she started doing the coffee, and every week she started folding the bulletins. And then she got kind of excited. She was like, "Oh, I'm really loving this." And then she started noticing that there was cobwebs in places. And so she started cleaning the cobwebs. And then she started noticing that, the kids' room at their church was a little bit messy. So she started picking it up. And then she just kept doing all of these little things. And she was loving just being of service. And she had forgotten all about teaching. And one day that minister that she was serving at calls her up and says, "Edwina, I have laryngitis. Would you please teach the Sunday service, Sunday school? And also, would you please do the sermon?" And she was amazed. She was like, "I didn't even ask to do the sermon on Sunday. All I wanted to do was teach a class." And she got both in one day. And what she realized is when she got her ego out of it, and she was showing the universe that her devotion was specifically just to be in service, that the universe showed up for her. And so I encourage you to think about, where are the areas that you could be in service just to be in service? Just to step into this new idea that when you start serving the world starts serving you. I love this book, You Are the Placebo. Actually, I haven't finished it yet. It's really, obviously, it's hard to read a book every month, by the way. But some of you do it, so God bless you, because I'm working on it too. There's this really great story in here. So the guy who wrote this, Joe Dispenza, he was a very athletic guy, super into cycling, very healthy. And in his early 20s, he's in a bike competition. And it's one of those bike competitions where you're going, it's all alone, and then you merge with traffic. And so you're kind of mixed with the traffic and stuff. And he was so focused on, he had this turn that he was making. He just looked at, there was a police officer who was directing traffic, and he was directed into a certain way. So he was just paying attention to the police officer, and he was bicycling, and he was going. And then a car hit him from behind going 55 miles per hour. And it hit him, threw him forward, and then it ran over him, but he caught the bumper and was dragged along. He destroyed 7 or 8 vertebrae in his back. When he woke up, they basically said, "You're going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life." So the thing he said, so he had plenty of time on his hands. He was at the hospital. He had all these broken bones all over his body. He was just completely, his body was demolished. But he was still alive, which was good. And he said, so now I had quite a bit of time on my hands. So he started to imagine things about having a healthy body again. What would it be like if he could walk again? He said, I started to think about what it'd be like to see a sunset again from the water's edge, or eat a lunch with my friends at a table in the restaurant. And I thought about how I would never take any of that for granted again. In detail, I imagined taking a shower and feeling the water on my face and my body, or simply sitting up while using the toilet, or taking a walk on the beach in San Diego, the wind blowing on my face. These were some of the things I'd never fully appreciated before the accident, but now they had meaning, and I took my time to emotionally embrace them until I felt as if I were already there. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but now I do. I was actually starting to think about all these future potentials that existed in the quantum field. And then I was emotionally embracing each of them. And as I selected that intentional future and married it with the elevated emotion of what it would be like to be there in that future, in the present moment, my body began to believe it was actually in the future experience. As my ability to observe my desired destiny got sharper and sharper, my cells began to reorganize themselves. I began to signal new genes in new ways, and then my body really started getting better, faster. At 9.5 weeks after the accident, I got up and walked back into my life without having any body casts or surgeries. This is a man who was able to heal his body and his life. The rest of the book is about how this happened in his 20s, and he did this. He healed himself completely, and then he spent the rest of his life figuring out how in the world did that happen. And he's realizing that his mind has much more control over what happens in our world than we think it does. We have the abilities to heal ourselves. And Ernest Holmes said self-healing must come first of all. In order for you to become the light, you must be the light yourself. You must heal yourself first and step out into the community in order to be the light for others. So I wonder, what are you doing to treat yourself like the god or the goddess that you are? What are you doing to create that future of the world that works for everyone? How is that working for you? What can you do to start creating your own future in a way that's supportive, in a way that is absolutely beyond your wildest dreams? It has to start in your mind first. You have to start imagining what that future would be like. And then you get the opportunity to embrace these values, these things that we learn every Sunday or in our classes or in the workshops or at Sister Spirit or wherever we are. You get the opportunity to embrace the learnings, step into them, and then share your gifts with others by being of service. That's how each one of us can create a world that works for everyone. So I want to encourage you to give in alignment with your values and beliefs. I want to encourage you to give to your spiritual home or the places that you feel you are nurtured. I want to encourage you to create a lifestyle of giving through giving your money and your time to the places that spiritually fulfill and uplift you. And I know that as we step into this, we start creating a new idea of possibility. Miracles, seeming miracles can happen, but they aren't, because that's exactly the way that God works. As soon as we start creating in our mind, in our head, a new possibility, then everything in the universe conspires for our greatest good. We just got to get our ego out of the way and step in to just being present to that love and being of service to the world. So I encourage you to think about if you're willing to walk your talk. Would you be willing to jump into the game of life and serve in a bigger way? How would it look like to create a lifestyle of giving? And what would it be like if you actually treated yourself like you truly deserve, like you are a god or a goddess? What would that look like? Because the beggar knew it, and sometimes the sages don't. So it doesn't matter who you are, you have that wisdom within you. And I encourage you to seek it out this week and start seeing how you can be that, who you can be that with, and in what ways can you give that stretch you into that possibility, that idea of being. Are you willing to do this with me? Yes. I know, that's why we're playing together today. So, yes, let's do it, okay? Yes. All right, and so it is. Let's pray. I'm so grateful to know that I'm here in the space of possibility, that my mind is part of God's mind, that God's mind is the intelligence that created the entire universe. The entire universe. The world, the planets, everything that's alive and vibrant and everything that ever will be is that exact thing that I call God. Some people call it the Creator, the Source, the Beloved One. Some people call it Allah. I don't care what you call it, but it is that infinite, invisible everything that shows up visibly in this world, in and through each and every one of us. And so as I claim today that I am here to be a light worker in this world, I am here to be a purveyor of the light in the world, that I choose to be in alignment with the highest and greatest vibration that is resonating on this planet. I know and claim that each and every one of us here is in tune with that greater good. That there are bells of happiness happening because of that truth. I'm so grateful. I celebrate this day, and I celebrate the joy and the laughter and the goodness that is transforming my body and my life right here and right now as I see and feel it in a new way. I'm grateful to know that it is even happening greater and better than I could ever imagine. And so as I step into this week, I welcome opportunities of love. I welcome opportunities of being this light in the world. I welcome opportunities of seeing my own goodness and treating myself like the goddess I am. And knowing that it's not from the ego, it's from that place of knowing that everything is holy. Everything is holy. And so I see with these eyes, see with the eyes from the holy, recognizing each and every person is the beloved one, is the person to be honored and acknowledged and loved and adored, appreciated, even in the messiness of it. And so as I celebrate that truth, I release this prayer with absolute gratitude, knowing that it's already done, it's already happening. There is nothing for me to do, there's only for me to be. And so as I settle into the beingness, I recognize that the world is serving me just as I am serving it. So there is no efforting, there is no pushing, there is no shoving. There's only being in that space that is that downhill, effortless flow that happens. And so I just let go and I surrender into it. And allow it to take me to that next place of joy, of happiness, of love, knowing it is indeed good. And so I release this prayer, letting it go and letting it be. And with that I say, and so it is.